Thank you for joining us today. My name is Elena Grinyuk and I'm Regional Manager for the Central Eastern Europe at SME Banking Club, and I will be your host today. And today we are going to discuss the topic of digitalization of trade finance services for SMEs. And I'm glad to be joined by Margaret Lutch and Marius Savin from Octet Europe, which is a B2B supply chain payments and management platform for small businesses. Hello, Margaret and Marius, and thank you for joining today.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
So before we start and go to the topic, let me quickly mention some organizational moments. So our webinar is planned for half an hour. We are recording this webinar, so right after we finish, you will receive this link to the video and the presentations. And in the end of the webinar, we're gonna have time for your questions. So please type your questions into the chat, even during the presentation. So, and then after we finish, we will be ready to answer all of the questions. So you're welcome to type your questions into the chat. And let's get into the topic. So will give you a very short overview on what we see on the Central Eastern Europe market in the area of trade finance services for SME customers. So what are actually the challenges that SMEs are facing right now in the area of international trade? So first of all, of course, the decreasing of the trade operations, meaning export and import both, in the European Union. So, and also, of course, decreasing the import from China. And these are two main challenges for SMEs, appearing that they should move to the new markets and also to search for another suppliers. To differentiate actually the suppliers. And Africa, MENA, Latin America, and Asia could be new potential markets for SMEs, but here are two main challenges that SMEs are facing. So first of all, they mainly lack of contacts or partners, let's say, on these markets, and lack of experience in work in new markets and with new cultural and business culture, etc. So these are the challenges that SMEs are facing, and actually small businesses are more and more expecting from banks or other financial institution companies, fintechs, to help them and support them with their solutions. And if we talk about the access to trade finance tools to SMEs, so still this segment is undercovered by the banks. And what we see in the region right now, so last year we did a study on the online banking functionality that banks are offering to their SME customers in the CE region in 5 countries, and we covered 25 banks. And in terms of international trade and trade finance tools, so what we see, so less than 50% of the banks are offering at the moment, and this hasn't changed this year at the moment right now. So so this now is taken as an advantage if the banks have such a function. So first of all, this is a foreign exchange module, so that the SMEs can manage their foreign currency risks. So they can have spot forward transactions, for example, or they can set the exchange rate they want to buy or sell the currency for such operations, and they will receive an alert for this. So this is one of the tools that banks are offering. And also, if we see on the availability of digital guarantees or electronic guarantees and a letter of credit, so 7 banks in Poland and 1 bank in Czech Republic are offering e-guarantees to their SME customers, so that the customers can apply and issue and receive the guarantee online and see all the templates, all acting issued guarantees on their online banking. And 3 banks in Poland, and this is if you look on the whole CE region, so we have that only 3 banks in Poland offer their customers a digital process for letter of credits. So for the application and for issuing. So this is what we have now. So we will see if this will change this year, because now, due to the pandemic situation and to the lockdown, and that we are enforced to work digitally, to work at home, so probably some tools will appear. But here I actually want to pass the word to you, Margaret and Marius, to give your view on the situation and how actually SMEs and banks can benefit from using your platform, which actually allows supply chain payments to the small companies, and the real view and access to the documents and so on. So you are welcome.
Thank you. First of all, we would really like to thank SME Banking Club and especially Olena for allowing us to present our Octet platform to you all, which we hope will solve some of the problems which you are facing, which Olena just mentioned. I think she's going to continue with her presentation a little bit more, if I'm not wrong. But we can also start our presentation if that's easier to maybe immediately explain what we're doing.
Yes, we start, sure.
Octet Europe is a franchise of Octet Australia. Australia has already been in business for more than 10 years. So we are in a very unique situation. While opening up Europe newly, the platform is duly tested and has a lot of experience already. The Australian platform has more than 2 billion euros in turnover annually. It has more than 100,000 registered customers already, and therefore really can present immediately benefit to all of you. With regard to especially clients in Asia, where the strength of the Australian platform was. Now, a few words for us. Marius Savin and I are the co-owners of Octet Europe, the franchise from Australia. We come both from the trade finance background, traditional trade finance, which we both believe needs now more than ever digitalization to make it easier, to make it more transparent, to mitigate risks. And we believe that the platform, while unique in its approach with the cards, with the credit and debit cards, is also a facilitator of trade between SMEs and in many ways a replacement for letters of credits, which are, as we all know, quite cumbersome. So when Marius takes over and walks you through how we do this and what the platform offers, you will see that there is lots of benefits for SMEs in there, which you would find incredibly interesting. Banks in particular, because I know I come from the banking background, it is very difficult to deal with SMEs on today's regulation and compliance issues. And I think we can resolve some of these struggles you have with that type of the business. Although this type of the business, this market segment is so important for the economies globally, everywhere. So Marius, you want to take over?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. So yes.
Yeah, I had a bit of a technical issue here.
Yeah, we saw.
So thank you. Yeah, thank you, Margaret, for the introduction, and Olena. We are looking at the trade ecosystem for SMEs, where buyers and sellers, being it also importers and exporters, they do interact with a number of services when they do their businesses, which starts from having a payment gateway or documents exchange or logistic operators, custom brokers. So in all this environment, definitely there are a lot of pieces to put together, and through Octet Europe, we can help SMEs that in the current context, some of them, they might have many transactions going at the same time. So they might need to have a supply chain management. They would like to have genuine, or to be sure that their partners are genuine, that they are KYC, AML vetted, and that the trade documents are available easily and exchange in timely with their partners, as well as on the cash flow side. Quite a number of SMEs, they do face cash flow pressures, as well as into today's digital world. They would explore the possibilities to have e-commerce or to be present on marketplaces, and all that leads to actually how they can bring the money faster and how they can manage their payments out. So in that context, Octet Europe comes with a proposition which enables SMEs to trade smarter, and that enables them to have access immediately to a platform which keeps all the transactions on track, and they are visible at all times in real time into a private shared ledger. And in that context, we do make the verification in terms of KYC and AML for all the members on our platform. So once our members, they trade with each other, they have the confidence that they are already screened. Now,
Marius, I'm sorry to interrupt. Will you share your screen with us? Because I know you prepared the presentation and I don't see it now. Will you share your screen with us right now?
Because I shared the screen.
No, we don't see this.
Not visible, Marius.
Sorry?
It's not visible. It's still Olena.
Yes.
Yeah,
so you have it still on your laptop.
Okay. Sorry for that. It's a bit...
Yes, so now we see your screen. This is the webinar screen. Yes. So probably we'll see. I will comment just if we have this one half a minute technical break. So I see the questions already. So we will answer right after we finish. So I see that the presentation, the screen is sharing already in the process.
So you can see now?
Not yet, but I see that it's now. Yes, we can see. So we will answer all the questions in the end. So please keep typing. Thank you.
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, the trade ecosystem entitles to interact with a lot of service providers. And into this ecosystem, obviously, Octet Europe comes with a value proposition to tackle some of the issues I was mentioning earlier, how to collect the receivables, how to manage their payments, how to have a real-time supply chain management. And in all this, Octet definitely verifies all the members that are registered with us in terms of KYC, AML. All the documentation related to transactions, they are available in real time in a private shared ledger environment. And we enable our members to, for example, collect the money even if they do not have yet an e-commerce in place, as well as we can enable our buyers to pay with a card even if their suppliers are not yet part of a card payment scheme. So I will take you quickly through how the process goes for the SMEs in terms of client experience. And from there, we will go into the how to unlock the trade and finance for these SMEs. So the customer experience starts with a free online registration for both buyer and the seller. And once they are vetted for the KYC, they will be given access, and that access is user-based rights, and it's done on a two-factor authentication. Once they are connected, a bit like in the LCs, they will be connected to one another, and we will be reflecting for them all the necessary documentation to be exchanged between the buyer and the seller, which will allow the seller to claim for payment. And that environment of all the data and documents which is available between the buyer and the seller, starting with invoices, certificates of inspection, proofs of delivery, any types of documents they want. All that could be the base for either the buyer or the seller to prove to their financiers that they have the basis to also unlock financing for those transactions. So once they do exchange all the documentation in real time and the seller starts the claim of the payment, then the buyer can also review that documentation. So it brings actually the value for the trade environment that the documents exchange are validated by both buyer and the seller prior to a buyer initiating a payment from either their current account or from their card or from a finance line with one of their financiers. So in that environment, both buyer and the seller, they can also choose if they like, if sensitive documentation, for example, certificates of inspection or some shipping documentation, if they want it to be uploaded by a specific third party, which is of trust for both buyer and the seller, they can communicate with us and we can accommodate that. So that gives the confidence to both buyer and the seller that the documentation exchange is genuine and that reflects the reality of the transaction. Now, coming to the values that we bring to the SMEs, we enable buyers to pay any suppliers and suppliers to collect from any buyers, inclusive in use of cards, procurement cards, and that can be done both domestically and internationally. We believe that with our solution, we can make the trade safer because all the parties involved are KYC vetted, AML checked through WorldCheck. We do believe that we can reduce the trade fraud by using a private shared ledger where we will know exactly who has uploaded what documents. So we have a certainty that that particular party is not just the secretary or the assistant, it's someone that has rights to access the platform because it's all done on user-based rights. All exchanges are done in real time, which provides possibility to review, control, and authorize and react immediately for any discrepancies. We have seen a lot of situations in real trade for SMEs in particular when they have received a set of documents with discrepancies and they were not able to clear the goods from the customs or they were not able to clear the goods from the shipping agent. So all that is visible in real time and they can immediately address the any discrepancies related to that transaction. As well as it brings certain discipline and establishes clear and proper procurement flows at the SMEs level. And that is given through our platform, so they don't need to have any heavy investments into making that possible. As well as when the use of cards is done for the procurement, there is a reduction of fraudulent use of cards, both in paying and in accepting cards, because all transactions done through our platform, they are using the 3D secure provided by MasterCard secured code or verified by Visa. Now, when we look at the environment of the trade, and particularly lately, quite a number of SMEs, according to a study done by us, they moved into the online trading, like they would use marketplaces in various markets. What we are saying is that a supplier that comes into the picture and uses either a marketplace. Into a study that we've done, we saw that sellers that are part of a marketplace, they would usually top up their prices anywhere between 10 to 15 and sometimes even to 20% in order to be able to be present on that marketplace. So buyers, usually they take a hit on that because they will not be able to go straight if they go through a marketplace. And on the other side, the sellers, they will not be able to access the funds immediately once a payment is authorized on a marketplace. So what we come and say by the buyer and seller coming through Octet, this part, it can become a bargain negotiation between the buyer and the seller, as well as when a seller would be using a e-com, definitely they will have their own charges, which in our case, these charges, they come actually embedded in the transaction fee, and that will be coming together with all the value addition services that we provide. So that comes along with our services. Now, as I said earlier, all this data that is provided through the platform definitely enables both the buyer and the seller to justify access to finance, of course, subject to eligibility. And in that respect, Octet already is in discussions with various financiers, and we look to partner with SME banking units of various banks and also card issuers in order to find ways to structure a value proposition for the SMEs, where based on the underlying trade documentation, then trade finance facilities can be made available. Of course, in our platform as well, we can build in foreign exchange services as well through third parties, or as well through the foreign exchange service providers that a buyer or a seller they might already have. Although it's early enough, in our platform, we also look onto making available in the near future also trade insurance products. So in that perspective, we want to make both the buyer and the seller to feel more comfortable to trade both domestically and internationally safer. In respect of having a demo of the platform, of course, it's available upon requests. We can make one-on-one demos for anyone who is interested. I would also give now the floor to Margaret if she wants to add on more to what has been said and to conclude.
Thank you, Marius. I think it was fairly clear what we tried to offer. I really believe that it is so critical, especially in today's environment, that we going more digitalized, that we use today's technology to facilitate trade, and especially with the SMEs. And I know the banks are struggling to do that. I was myself in that role, but this platform can truly help. If you are also an issuer of cards, but it doesn't have to be. I think if you give a loan to an SME and people work for you behind, and you can follow all the transactions, you can view them at any time if you're involved in transactions, that should really make life for banks much, much easier. So I hope you have a lot of questions, which we will try to answer and make it maybe more appealing. But I also believe that the demo, real-time demo, will demonstrate to you how easy this is to use, and it does not need any changes in your IT. It's API, but it's simple, it's internet-driven, so it is really not going to be a technical issue for any bank. So I'm very curious about your questions.
Yes, we have questions, and I will read them one by one. So first question was, which platform, I think that's was concerning my part, which platform are used in ensures digital letter of credits, which banks are in Poland? Yes, there are 3 banks, ING, mBank, and Bank Millennium, and they use their digital signatures, and I think this is internal platforms of the banks. I see also the question about the documents presentation and the letter of credit. Is it also digital? So in terms of banks, yes. So this is, everything is done in electronical way. We will have more details on the processes in a month, because now we're actually updating this information and what is available both from the bank side and fintechs on the European market. So we will have more detailed study with the description of the processes in a month. So we will follow up. I think we will have a short version for everybody like available publicly and the full version for our members. So we will stay in touch with these details. The next question to you, Margaret and Marius. So is the platform useful for United Arab Emirates? And maybe I will add also, is there any regional limitations to use the platform? Maybe both for SMEs and maybe at once how actually banks can use the platform or can launch with the platform, etc.
Yeah, I mean, the UAE is definitely an area which we can cover. Octet Europe will do the onboarding of all European buyers and sellers. Globally, Australia will onboard all other sellers and buyers. So the platform itself is fully global. But obviously, we are now introducing this through this webinar to Europe, because this is the new angle which comes to the platform today. There is also Turkey, which has its own franchise. But we all work together, and if there is onboarding required globally, outside Europe, we work with our OFIs, as we call them, our members, to onboard outside Europe sellers and buyers. So it is a global platform, no doubt about that. But we wanted to focus on Europe because this is the new angle we're bringing to the platform and has not been in existence at all.
And one clarification on this one. So we do not act as a marketplace. We act as a closed community network. So the main difference being that once a buyer and the seller are in a relationship and they want to digitize all their trade, the fear of a buyer is that his suppliers will be tapped in by other competitors. The same goes on the sellers. So we do strongly believe into a direct relationship between buyers and sellers. We do facilitate that, but we are not a marketplace.
Okay, thank you. The next question, would this type of platform make sense for domestic transactions?
Yes, very much so. As Marius mentioned in the presentation, this works for domestic and cross-border. And we see also huge potential for domestic business in Europe in particular, as we have the license to act in the 28 European Union member states through the passport we have for Malta. So even the UK, we will be able to do the business once they have exited the EU. We will be able to do business there. So yes, this domestic business we see as a huge part of the future, and actually it is very, very helpful to make business more transparent and easier for SMEs to deal with each other.
Okay, the next question is this platform integrated with SWIFT applications in order to issue digital letter of credit? We and partner bank need this platform. So who needs this platform?
Well, the banks will introduce to us their clients. They want to serve to the platform. And what they can do is actually view what the clients do with the facilities they have granted, which really live, transparent. They can see what is going on. We use SWIFT for our payments. But we don't have an integration with SWIFT otherwise. But for the banks, if they introduce customers to us for which they have either a facility to give a loan for trade, or they issue business credit or debit cards, then they introduce them. They can see what we do on the due diligence, if they haven't done it themselves already, but we will do both the buyers, which is maybe their client, and the seller, which is maybe not one of their clients, and then they can view what's going on for their transactions. So the banks will feel much safer with the facilities to see what is going on live and transparent, even on corporate cards for which they have issued for entertainment. Now they used to do trade, which is a much more useful way of using facilities. And you can see what they do, not just going out and buying expensive meals for their customers or potential customers, but actually do trade. So we believe the banks will feel they can issue higher limits for their clients because they can follow all their transactions very well.
If I may add on this one, we have the experience of our colleagues in Turkey, who they partner with card issuing banks to make actually cards for procurement. So enabling SMEs to do their procurement via cards and the procurement done via Octet platform. And the reason being, those banks, when they issue the cards, they have the certainty that the usage of the card is for the procurement and not for other scopes. So in that context, the issuing banks are in Turkey, for example, allowing procurement with higher limits on the credit cards for the SMEs, and procurements done through the Octet platform in Turkey, then they are reimbursed or they are like paid back in installments to the issuing bank. A bit like in retail, right? When an individual goes and buys a TV, and then they have the option to reimburse that spend on the card in the 3, 4, 6 months later. And that is a reality in Turkey in terms of cards for SMEs. And this is one of the angles we look at. And that will definitely be mainly open account trade that is not based on letters of credit. It will be purely open account trade.
Yeah, I see. So the next question, what are the costs for members? Are there tiers of users with more or less functionality?
Currently, the price is only, registration is free, right? So all the registration is free, and there will be a price per transaction, because we believe once our members, they find use of our services, there is a cost of the service. And that cost of the service, of course, includes the access to all the digitalization and as well the capability of accepting or paying by cards.
Okay, the next question, you have mentioned ING Bank. So this question to me, does this bank work currently in Octet platform in order to issue digital trade finance products, or this bank uses another platform for digital LCE issuances? They don't, as far as I know. So I mentioned ING Bank in Poland. As far as I know, they don't use Octet platform. They use their own solutions, IT solutions. Next question, what kind of SME funders, partners do you look for?
Well, we are looking to funds, family, private offices, banks. We find quite a bit of interest. I think what we need is higher volumes to really attract these funders a little bit more. But we have the cards themselves already provide funding, and we will work with each bank issuing these cards to make the card term for repayment more appropriate for trade finance, because so far these cards have been issued for travel and entertainment particularly, which of course should not have extended terms. But for trade, maybe extended terms will be possible and should be negotiated. So we will talk with the issuing banks about this as well. So funding is a concept which we do separately and with the banks which work with us.
Yes, thank you. So at the moment, we have answered all the questions we had. My short question, maybe for the end, would be what does it take for the bank to become your partner, the partner of the platform? I mean, process-wise, how fast it can happen? what is the process?
Well, Marius might be more technical on the API, but we basically only need them to tell us these are the customers we would like to bring to the platform. And then we onboard them to our compliance checkings. And then we need from these customers to know who their sellers are or buyers, depending on which side they are. That's really all they need to do.
On the technical side, so it's just a simple partnership agreement, commercial agreement. It could be as simple as that, whereby clients of a specific bank or clients of a specific financier or card issuer, then those clients would be benefiting special access in terms of pricing, because our pricing is based on volumes. So such a issuer or a financier bringing a pool of clients, then we can ensure that that pool of clients, they will benefit these services at a special rate. And unless the bank or the financier or the card issuer, they don't want, well, it's up to them how much they want to integrate with us. Our platform is open end platform, so we can go to the distance that they want to. Otherwise, it could be as simple as a commercial partnership where we start providing and their clients start enjoying value-added services, and the financier, together with that, they will have access to enhanced data for the trade done.
Okay, I see. Thank you. So yes, there was a comment and where we can get more information. Sure, after this webinar, we will send this video to you and we will send the presentation. And if Margaret, Marius, you consider you would like to send some additional information to the attendees, so you're welcome to do so. So we will send everything to the participants. As actually today we had we haven't get this not only from Europe but from another region as well, which is happy to have everybody here. Yes, so you send already your website. Yes, we will send this information at your emails after we finish. So actually we will be closing the webinar. Just wanted to invite you as well to our webinars next week. So every Monday now during April and May, we have Agile Mondays. So at 11 a.m. we are talking about agility. And next Monday we continue the topic of Agile Finance. So everybody is welcome to join. And on April 22, we will be talking about the open banking analytics and how banks can leverage to attract new customers. So thank you very much for all attention, for your attention and joining both to Margaret, Marius, and all our attendees. So thank you for today and see you next time online. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Ollie. Thank you very much.